Welcome back to another Star Mini Gaming YouTube video. As always, I'm James, and this is a video response to the video that Vince just threw up for the topic of the week. That's kind of why we Warhammer YouTube, and any advice that we have for people who are new to it. First off, I want to say I'm still new to it. I've been doing this for about a month for Warhammer. And I have about a week's experience from before that. A few months, or if you don't mind, I'm going to go real briefly into the history of and kind of explain why I Warhammer YouTube. A few months ago, probably about 4 now, maybe 5 even, I was just getting into the X-Wing miniatures game by Fantasy Flight and really enjoyed it, and I was looking for content on it. I've played the Lord of the Rings game for a while, 40k for a little while, and channels like Mini Wargaming or the Great British Hobbit League really provided, number one, entertainment for those, but tactics and discussion kind of videos, and helped me really like dive into the game a bit more. There was the Great British Hobbit League Facebook page. There was the onering.co.uk forum, which is still around, but it's used a lot less. It's been having some website troubles as of late. And of course, numerous 40k online forums that I didn't really get into as much, but I knew a lot of people, like, personally in my area that play 40k. So, through all these things, and really those two YouTube channels, it was really a way for me to connect with my hobby a bit more on so many different levels. I enjoy the painting and the assembling of the models and playing the game and all that. And I also really enjoy the social aspect of the games. And that's really the first part that's kind of turned me on to the Warhammer YouTubing. I really enjoy being part of the community. Whenever I was part of the Lord of the Rings community, I was really active on the forums. Anytime there's a new player, I was like, hey, let me give you advice, or if they asked for it, I was like, here's some advice, to the questions you asked, whatever. And I've always loved, kind of giving back to the community and just being involved. Like, I love that social aspect. And for X-Wing, there wasn't really much of that. So I made a week's worth of videos on some tactics and list building tips for the Rebels, which is my primary faction. And then it was honestly such a pain. I didn't have a good video editing software. I was just using Windows Movie Maker. I was just running into problem after problem after problem. It was an absolute nightmare to make those videos. If you're going to get started on it, look for a decent, this is my first advice, look for a decent video editing software. I use AVG or AVI or something like that, video editor. It's not super expensive. You can buy it basically forever. They'll have sales where you can buy it forever for like $40. So it's not too bad. It works really well. It does a lot. It's pretty user-friendly, I think. And it's a lot better than the Windows Movie Maker that came for free on my computer. So that's number one, because that really turned me off for a while. And then what got me into Warhammer YouTubing specifically was as I've talked about before, I opened up my small little retail store about 3 months ago in October. And I got in the demo kits to start, running Age of Sigmar events and all, and 40k to, kind of help my hobby shop out. And I was like, you know what? I know the story of 40k. If I'm going to play Age of Sigmar, I'd like to know a little bit more about the story, because I love, the background narrative for these kinds of things. And so I was looking on YouTube, and I was having a hard time finding it, and I stumbled upon Kieran's YouTube channel with the Warhammer the End Times series that he did, which is very good. If you don't mind, basically sitting down and listening to a lot of talking, which honestly, if you watch my channel or Vince's channel or a lot of the other channels, you probably don't mind it, because so many of us talk for so long. Then it's really worth your time if you haven't watched it. It's a really good video series that Vince is in. And I really enjoyed it, and I watched all the way through it in a few days, and I was like, man, this is like a really interesting story. I like how this is kind of like led up to the Age of Sigmar. I want to find out more. And so through that, I found out, that Vince had a YouTube channel, and I started watching his stuff. And I still didn't have any real desire to get back into YouTubing, just because the video editing process had been such a nightmare until I was watching Vince's War Game series. And one guy, whenever Age of Sigmar first came out, there was a question that was basically like, was Age of Sigmar viable in a tournament setting? And Kieran gave what I thought was a pretty good, well thought out answer, and the other guy gave another answer I thought was pretty well thought out, and then the third guy I thought gave an honestly a horrible answer. He was like saying no because Age of Sigmar, like, that wasn't what it was, and that the game like couldn't do that and was too limited and things like this. And honestly, I was just like, whoa, I've only played a couple games, like played this game a couple times, but I've been tabletop gaming for 15 years. Like, this thing's not as limited as you seem to think it is. And that video was like probably a couple months old at the time, but I was just kind of like fired up about this. I was like, this injustice cannot stand. I know it's not really an injustice, but I was like, this is an uninformed opinion, and I keep seeing that on the internet. So I kind of wanted to fight back, I guess, against that uninformed opinion. And so I made my first real video, which was the Warhammer Age of Sigmar, the noob perspective, and I talked about what I liked about the game, what areas I think people were kind of like not accurately representing whenever they were negatively talking about it, and just kind of addressed a lot of what I felt like was common misconceptions that a lot of the angry internet community seem to have. And I put that out there, and I got immediately really, really positive feedback, especially from Tyler and from Kieran. And honestly, those two are the ones that kind of encouraged me the most. Like, Kieran is in a way a bit of like a YouTube hero of mine. Like, I thought his videos were such high quality. I really, really enjoyed them. So to have him as part of the community immediately commenting on my videos and whatnot, like, really encouraged me. And Tyler was just so encouraging, and just like, and it was so unexpected that it's just like, whoa, it's like, this stuff that I'm not feeling very confident about in terms of making, like, people are enjoying. So, I must be doing better than I think I am. Like, let's keep going. And so I was kind of thinking, I was like, well, it's Kieran's series on the story that was really like what got me hooked. Like, I was interested in Age of Sigmar and trying it out, but kind of like learning the narrative that took place before the Age of Sigmar and set it all up was what really got me excited about playing Age of Sigmar. And so I thought, well, people aren't really doing that kind of thing for Age of Sigmar. Why don't I kind of continue that trend that he started? And I'll read the books and I'll talk about them, because I've heard people say in numerous videos, such as on like Warhammer Weekly, different guests, and Vince and Tom had all said, I'm interested in learning more about the story, but I don't necessarily want to read the novels. I thought, well, I love reading. I love a good story. I'm more than happy to talk about it. Like, I love talking about, a good story, so I'll do that. And so, really, that was the birth of my channel. As of late, I've started to go back to some of what I actually got started with, which was discussing like the tactics. I just started that series. I have a couple more videos recorded that will be coming out soon. I've only been at it for about a month, but I'm starting to kind of get the hang of, setting a more regular schedule. So, like, hopefully tonight I'll be getting the next narrative review video out. And I'm trying to kind of go with, I'll see if it works out. I may have to adjust it, but I'm trying to kind of go with the narrative reviews are hopefully from now on going to come out Thursday or Friday. And then a Tactica video every single week as well. Either Sunday or Monday, maybe Tuesday at the latest, and that, so that every few days I've got like a scheduled video, and then other videos that kind of just pop up here and there, like maybe battle reports if I'm able to get a couple games in, or just different kind of like thought videos where maybe something like sparked an idea from watching one of Vince's videos or Kieran's or somebody else's, and either I want to respond to that or that sparks my own idea. Like the video I did on the brilliance of the Age of Sigmar narrative. So videos like that can kind of plug in the extra days here and there. But that's kind of my goal right now. And so my advice would be, if you're a new channel, like, don't be afraid to do what someone else is already doing. Don't get on my narrative turf. I'm just joking. If you love the narrative, like, by all means, I would encourage you, like, make the videos as well. First off, I'd love to not be the only person who actually knows the story. I'd love to have people I could talk with. Maybe eventually we occasionally would, if as another new channel, like, we could do, occasional kind of like meetup videos where we were talking about them, like Vince does with Warhammer Weekly, that kind of thing, but maybe more narratively focused. I'd love to have that opportunity in the near future. If you enjoy playing the game and you want to make battle reports that maybe have your own spin to them, or even if they're really similar to what somebody else does, like, don't be concerned with that. Like, I love mini wargaming's Warhammer 4. Oh, I love mini wargaming's content. I don't watch as much as their Warhammer 40k battle reports as I used to, but just because I watch like their Age of Sigmar stuff doesn't mean that I won't watch somebody else's, right? Like, I don't watch much TV. Honestly, I don't really care for that many TV shows. What I do care about, I'll watch via Hulu or Netflix or something that is a lot cheaper on my wallet. So Warhammer YouTubing is the majority of my entertainment, right? And it's what I use when I'm painting, when I'm, cleaning. We just moved. That's why, you can see these boxes here. We're in like a temporary housing arrangement. We're going to move again in a few more months. But, like doing something like that, like Warhammer YouTube kind of, is how it helped me pass the time. Whatever it is, if I'm at work and it's a slow day, I open it up and turn on a video. So like, more content is never bad. Even if you don't feel like it's unique enough, I would encourage you that there'll still be an audience for it. And then also, like, just get involved on like the Google Plus community, both the YouTuber and the Painters Motivating Painters, and like, post your videos out there. Just be like, hey, I made this video on XYZ. Here's the link. Please check it out. And people will. And then, get involved in other people's. Like, Vince obviously has one of the larger channels, as does Kieran and MC1 Gamer and a lot of other guys. Like, comment on their videos and kind of get to know them to a degree, at least. Become acquainted with them via the internet, right? Like, building that rapport is only going to help your YouTubership grow, because it gets your channel out there and makes it easier to find you. And that's a big thing. So I always try to kind of shout out other YouTube channels that I feel like are doing a good job. So like, you'll hear me a lot of times talking about my 4 favorites, which are Kieran, Vince, Paul Conti, and Hooves of Doom. But like, it doesn't just have to be those 4. If someone else does something I really, really, really like, I'm more than happy to give credit where credit's due. And I feel, and I believe if you do that, then you're gonna get those shout outs too whenever whenever you make the content that others are kind of like, hey, like, this guy's doing something neat here. So, kind of paying it forward, I think, is a good thing to do. Because a lot of the established channels are more than willing to kind of do that to help you get up and started. Honestly, at this point, I'm just getting to where I start to ramble. So, that's all I've really got to say. You'll have plenty of other people who have way more experience than myself posting these up. But again, don't be afraid to do what you're interested in doing, even if someone else is already doing it. Don't be afraid if you feel like your content's too similar to somebody else's, because it's not, quite frankly. Even if it was a mirror image, you're like shooting battle reports the exact same way as somebody else, you're doing reviews the exact same way as someone else. Like, somebody else's slight take on it, like slightly different take on it, or slightly different game. Like, if I watch 2 players play Stormcast versus Khorne, even if the armies are the same, the game's not going to play the exact same. So watching 2 battle reports, even with the exact same forces, is still entertaining for me. It's still something I can have on when I'm editing my own videos, painting up my models, working at my shop, whatever. So just don't be afraid to put it out there. As Vince said, just do it, and get in contact with those of us who have done it for at least a little bit. I almost hate to put myself in that category, but if you haven't started, I am more experienced than you, and I don't mean that in a negative way, like, oh, like, look at me. I just mean, like, don't be afraid to get in contact with me or anyone else, and I'm sure we'd all be more than happy to help you out, help get your channel off the ground. So until next time, this is James, and happy gaming.